In this video, we're going to talk a little about the appearance of your page when it comes time to print or save it. So if you go to File and you go down to Print, this gives you some options to alter your document, gives you a preview. Whatever current page you are, worksheet you're working on will be the one you actually print. You can select multiple worksheets if you wanted to print multiple worksheets on individual pages. So you'll see that it gives you a preview. You'll notice on the bottom here, it tells you that you're currently looking at page 1 of 2. So it's a good idea when you are, if you're thinking of printing, or when you want to print, is that you take a look here. Because sometimes it may look like it'll fit on one page, but chances are, depending on how many columns you have and rows and all that fun stuff, you may have multiple pages. You'll notice if I go here and I click on page 2, that really the last 2 columns of our document will print on a second page. So we'll talk about ways that we can alter that. So this gives you the option of changing your printer. You can print one-sided, double-sided. If you had a 10-page document, you only wanted to print page 3 and 4, you could change this to 3 and that to 4, and it would print that for you. You can work on the paper size you have. You may be using legal size or bigger than that. And then there's also page setup, and we're going to talk about that when we get back into the actual spreadsheet. This allows you to make a lot of different changes. So if I just hit escape on my keyboard or just the little arrow here, that'll bring us back to our page. Once you do a print preview, you'll notice here between columns F and G, we have dotted lines or dashed lines. And if I just scroll down a little bit, you will see that this is showing us what the page is going to look like. Another way we can see what the page is going to look like is by going into page layout. And if you go down to the lower right hand corner, you'll notice all the way over on the right hand side, this is your view. So you can zoom out or zoom in. If you hold the control key or the command key on a Mac and use the mouse wheel, you can also scroll in and out. So currently we're at normal, and it's off kind of the screen there. So I want the second one, which is page layout. So I was going to click on that. What that does, it shows you what the document will look like if it was to be printed. So you can see I can scroll down, and here's all the page breaks. And if I scroll left and right, I can work with my page breaks. So if you want to alter how things appear so that maybe it'll just show on one page, there are some options under page layout. The first thing we can do is if we go over to margins, we're really looking at the page setup group. And if you click on margins, these are all sorts of different types of margins that have been set for you or preset by the system. So for instance, if I wanted to have wide margins, I can click that. You can see that the margins have changed. If you actually want to specify a margin, let's say you want a 1/4 inch left and right and a 1/2 inch top and bottom, I can go down here to custom margins, and then I can go and I can type in my new numbers. Let's say I want my top to be 0.5 and my bottom to be 0.5 and my left to be 0.25 and my right to be 0.25. Sometimes you'll get an error message or a message letting you know that you've set your margins too small and they may not print properly. So I can just click OK, and you'll see, oh, by changing the margins, I was able to get at least one more column on the page. So another option you may want to do, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here, is under orientation. Maybe if it works for you, you can change the orientation from portrait, which is up and down, to landscape. And landscape should make this fit. You can see how it does fit. So I can maybe go back to my margins and make them back to, let's just say 1 inch all the way around. You do have to pay attention to the bottom, and you'll want to make sure that you haven't set your data or your pages to go anything farther down. You'll see we have footers here. We'll talk about those in a few moments. We also have headers. Another thing you can do, I'm going to go back to normal, is sometimes when you design your page, you might be giving extra space. So like here for amount due and discount and cash payment and balance, I do have extra spaces here, but I'm leaving them here because I'm going to show you another option. But so instead of maybe changing the margins, you can look at your columns or your rows and maybe alter the size of that. So I'm going to go back to portrait, and you can see that now the dashed lines are between F and G. So one thing you may want to consider under the scale to fit group is to tell it to shrink your document. So you can change the width and you can change the height. So let's say that I want this to appear 1 page wide. So what I can do is under width, I can go over here and I can change it to a 1 page. And then you'll notice it, no matter how wide this was, how many columns this is going to be, it would print to 1 page. So let's say you have something that maybe takes up 3 pages. You may want to go and change the width to 2 pages. So now if I go back to File and I choose Print, you'll see that it does appear on 1 page. The thing you want to be careful when using the scale to fit is what it's doing is it's shrinking your text and it's shrinking everything. So it might be to the point where it's a little difficult to read. So this might be something that's kind of a last resort. So I'm going to put that back to automatic. Now, for some reason, it actually seems to fit in a 1 page. So sometimes just changing that. So yeah, it went back to fitting 1 page where it really was going on 2 pages. So that gives you a little bit of options of changing your margins and your orientation back and forth. We can change our margins to something a little smaller, and we'll see how things adjust. I would always use the scale to fit as a kind of a last resort. So that gives you some ideas on working with printing. In the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about headers and footers.